Hey guys, it's Sutonia here, and I thought I'd go over a quick overview of the changes that are happening to heavy assault cruisers and assault frigates for those of you who haven't been keeping up with the news and Vegas in the past week, and to give you a sort of my analysis and my take of the changes that are happening. I wanted to thank a lot of you, especially the people that voted for me for CSM, because I think a lot of my feedback has been incorporated into these proposed changes, which is great. I've already done a video on what I think assault frigates need, so I'm not going to really cover this too much. I'm just going to kind of go over the overview, and then we'll look at the new assault damage control, which is a new module for the assault frigates and the heavy assault cruisers. So just going down to sort of the changes they're going to make, want to keep the same theme, resilient and tough and fleet orientated, which is fine. They want to make something that makes them both classes distinct, which is the new damage control, which we'll take a look at in a second. They're going to address the major weaknesses, which is mostly just assault frigate speed, which is great. That's like the number one piece of feedback that I really wish they took and did, and they're going to do it. So assault frigates are going to get sped up. Hopefully they'll be around the same speed as command destroyers, where they're just slightly slower than Tech 1 frigates, but not by much. If a Hawk went 2.6k a second instead of like 2.1, it would be great. It would be like Fireball right now, even without any other changes. And they're going to boost the weaker ships with individual changes, so there's nothing concrete here, and there's no set ships that they've laid out here or not, but you can probably assume this is going to be, the Munin probably, the Eagle probably, and, like ships like the Retribution Jaguar and Ishka, I would imagine. I don't have any information yet about what ships they're going to touch, but that's essentially what they're going to do, which is great. So looking into this new assault damage control, so it's going to be a low slot like all other damage controls. It's going to have a damage control passive resistance bonus, but it is a bit weaker than a normal damage control. So if you just want the passive stats, you'd go with a normal damage control. If you activate it, it gives you a huge resistance bonus for a short period of time, and it has a pretty long reactivation delay. So you can kind of think of this kind of like a micro jump drive, where you activate it, and then once it does its thing, it's then on cooldown for a long period of time. And they have a list of preliminary stats here. So if we take a look at the Tech 2 one, it's going to be a bit harder to fit than a normal Tech 2 damage control. It's going to take 35 CPU. And it'll give slightly less stats than the Tech 2 damage control. Right now it's going to give the same stats as a Tech 1 damage control in terms of passive. Has a very high activation cost of 45 cap, which is a big deal on most frigates. That's more than what you would be using, like running a Tech 2 micro warp drive is less than that. So it's very hard to run it. It's going to be very vulnerable to newts, especially if they don't change some of the assault frigates cap per second, especially the Wolf and the Jaguar that have really low cap per second. I think right now 45 would be at roughly about 15 to 20% of their capacitor while they have a micro warp drive fitted. And the Tech 2 one will have 80% active resistance bonuses. This is to hull, to shield, and to armor. So 80% resistances means you only take 1/5 of the normal damage, essentially. So this basically multiplies your effective hit points by 5 while it's active. And it also means like incoming remote rep, effective EHP reps per second is also multiplied by 5. So, if you're in a fleet and you have, 2 scimitars repping you, suddenly that's 10 scimitars repping you while the damage control is activated. So it's a very powerful fleet tool, a very powerful tool just for EHP too. While surviving, so it'd be very powerful 1v1. You just pop that, you get like insane EHP for a short amount of time, and then it has a 2.5 minute reactivation delay of 150 seconds. So this module will be obviously very powerful in fleets, as I mentioned. You start getting shot in a fleet. If you're in a Harpy fleet, for example, that's probably the best example. You get yellow box, you start getting shot, you pop your super damage control. Suddenly the enemy now has to spend a great more deal of time trying to break you if they can while it's active. It's going to be very difficult to actually break someone catching reps with this module activated, because like I mentioned, like your EHP is multiplied by 5, but the incoming RR, effective EHP per second, is also multiplied by 5. So it'll be very hard to actually kill someone while this is active if they're catching reps, and they probably will, because the EHP is also multiplied by 5 effectively. So, and then they have to have that really hard choice of, do they stay on you which they I guess they probably would, but it makes it really hard to kill assault frigates in gangs, because now you have to spend at least 20 seconds probably on each assault frigate, plus every heavy assault cruiser too. You know, Cerberus gangs are popular. Maybe even old school Munich gangs can come back. Unless you can sort of alpha them before they even get a chance to activate it, it's going to be a huge waste of time. And the biggest, the thing that this module counters the hardest, which is great, is rapid lights. Because if you're in, you know, if it's like Harpies versus rapid light caracals, right now the caracals generally win, because they trade about even, but the Harpies cost significantly more, and they take more skill to fly as well, and you know, more player skill on top of that. I'm not talking about SP. So even if they trade equally, then the caracals still win, because they're fully insured and they're half the price for a fully fitted caracal than it is for a fully fitted Harpy right now. And so with rapid lights, you know, you either just shoot something else, which is always a bad idea with rapid lights, because first of all, missiles take time to travel to the target, so you've got some time. You know, if you red box by caracals, you've got plenty of time to hit the module before the missiles even arrive on you. And then, you know, do they continue shooting you? And if they continue shooting you, they're wasting their rapid light clips probably. If they swap to another assault frigate, and then that uses a damage control, they're wasting even more time. Like it's kind of like, while the potential of activating the damage control is there, it's very dangerous for rapid lights, and it's gonna just, I think it's just gonna make it so that Harpy fleets will now just completely dominate caracals, rapid light caracals, which is a good thing, because rapid light caracals were the meta game for 4 years now. I believe rapid lights were changed in September of 2013, so they have been pretty powerful for the past 4 years. It's going to be a very powerful module, 1v1, especially between frigates. Obviously, most frigate fights generally last about 40 to 50 seconds in terms of Tech 2 frigates versus Tech 2 frigates, and since, you know, this module basically gives you next to invulnerability during that period, at least in the context of a 1v1, and you get 5 times the effective rep while it's active. It's very powerful. It's gonna just I think it's just to make assault frigates incredibly powerful 1v1. It will probably change the meta game in small FW plexes too. Right now, I mean, obviously it's dominated by command destroyers, but the sort of sub-meta outside of command destroyers being OP for small plexes is that generally there's like a lot of Tech 1 destroyers, like Arty Thrasher, Cormorant, Catalyst, Coercer, that tend to focus on, and Augurs that tend to focus on doing a lot of DPS really quickly, while having kind of mediocre EHP. And this kind of assault frigate module will completely counter that. Like if you go into a Coercer, you hit the assault damage control, and then it's basically not going to be able to do anything to you while you get to shoot it for 20 seconds, and you come out of it with full HP, and then you've probably already killed the dude like after another 10 seconds. So it will be very powerful in factional warfare too. And like I mentioned, it'd be very good 1v1 as well, just because it's an insane amount of stats really quickly. The main thing here is that it's very vulnerable to nukes. As I said, you know, 45 activation cost is a huge amount. So it's also quite difficult to fit. 35, I mean, assuming that assault frigates don't get any serious fitting buffs, 35 CPU is actually quite a lot. But I think it is workable. But still, you know, quite a bit of a sacrifice to fit. Also, the difference between a Tech 1 and Tech 2 one is huge. The 80% resist, like 1/5 of the damage, is crazy compared to, you know, just a bit less than 1/3 of the damage. Like it's twice as powerful almost. I don't think you would ever want to fit the Tech 1 module, because like you would almost always want to find the extra 5 CPU somewhere. The one ship that I think will benefit from this very heavily are going to be ships like the Hawk, with the double MSAB, is one ship that I see benefiting really heavily from this, because you know, with the Hawk, with a blue pill, you tank about 250 DPS per repper with heat. So what you do is you're taking damage, you use the first medium exosual booster, it takes 20 seconds to go through all the charges. Okay, now it's on reload. Then you activate the second one, it takes 20 seconds to go through all the charges, now it's on reload. And then for the next, you still got 40 seconds before the first one comes up, and 60 seconds before the second one comes out, and you only have 7k EHP. So it's quite possible if you're taking like in excess of 200 damage, assuming that you had to run the second MSAB constantly. You hit your damage control, you already got 7k HP, but suddenly for 20 seconds you got 35k EHP. So it's going to be very difficult, I think, for someone to kill you before the first medium shield booster comes back up. And because it's like quite a huge time, 20 seconds is a long time, I think. You would basically almost always get like one guaranteed reload off of that reactivation delay. And if you're dealing with like, I don't know, like 150 DPS or something, where you don't have to constantly run the reppers, you could probably perma-tank thanks to this damage control. It's just finding the 35 CPU for the Hawk might be a bit difficult, but it would definitely be worth it. So yeah, this is a very powerful module, and I think it will change the metagame a lot, and it will probably completely destroy Rapid Lights, which is great. I'm glad that there's a counter to Rapid Lights now. So yeah, I hope this video was kind of useful. I know quite a lot of people do keep up with the news, and maybe it's kind of boring with me just going through, what you probably already know. But if you're someone who's not quite following the EVE scene, but you still follow my videos, or you just want someone to kind of break down the module and what's going to happen, I think this kind of video might be useful. And again, I think Harpy fleets are definitely coming back into the metagame with this change. I think Harpy fleets are going to be very, very powerful. Harpy fleets were always good. They just kind of got pushed out a bit by Rapid Lights and then by the Seapool. But with this new module, it just it really counters Harpies. Sorry, not Harpies. Caracals in particular. That now you're gonna have like this kind of weird triangle, I think, where like Caracals beat Seapools. Seapools, if they can alpha the Harpies, beat Harpies, and Harpies beat Caracals, which is really cool. And it'll be insane 1v1 module. I'm really looking forward to this killing. I still think it's killing Orphreses now, especially the really bad Orphreses. Because against a Rapid Light pilot, if they just waste their clip into you while you have your damage control active, you basically win the fight. And then they have this really awkward position where, do they just reload and don't do anything for the next second? Do they just reload and then they have that 15 seconds of dead space after the damage control comes off a cooldown, or do they hold their clip in and then shoot you after? But even in the best case, there's an extra like 20 seconds guaranteed survivability against a Rapid Light ship, I think. And so Caracals won't be like the default, or Orphreses probably won't be the default counter to them. Also, it's worth pointing out that this might also give Assault Frigates like tackle roll in fleets too. You could make a Jaguar fit, for example, that was like micro warp drive, like double medium shield extender scram, and then you just fit like, I don't know, like double nano assault damage control, and then I don't know, micro auxiliary power core, so it fits. And then you've got like this really fast Jaguar that's zipping around at like 3.2k, and it just charges at someone, and you just hit the super damage control. And then even if you're getting like some really basic reps, like if you're like sort of chasing a nano gang or something, it's only it's a 16k HP Jaguar is it's like what, like 74k or something EHP while the module's active, and it has an insane tank. So this might also make Assault Frigates like really good as like secondary tacklers, as well as like Interceptor gets the first point and Assault Frigate gets the second point, and then it just hits the damage control while it's taking damage, and it can probably live for a very long time, or just keeping something tackled before you can get like a cruiser or something bigger on it. So the Assault Frigates will also be, I think, very good as like tacklers against like things like nano gangs. Definitely could see things like Jaguars popping up as like very heavy tacklers that are relatively cheap, which is also really, really cool. I also like the fact that it might bring back like the old like remote rep Wolf, Retribution, Vengeance, Iskuk style gangs, where you have like a one remote rep and you rep each other up and stuff. It's just, I don't know, it's just really cool to see that this is actually, even though it's very simple, I think it will probably change the like small gang meta game quite a bit. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful, and have a nice day.